A fortune can disappear in a single lifetime. A family fortune can disappear even faster. One generation builds it, the next enjoys it, the third wonders where it went. Yet during Japan's Edo period, some merchant families created businesses, properties, and financial systems that survived wars, fires, political changes, and the deaths of the people who founded them. Their secret was not extraordinary luck, it was not endless growth, and it was not the ability to predict the future. Their advantage was something quieter. They built wealth as if they would never personally be allowed to consume all of it. To understand how they did this, we must enter a world where merchants were wealthy but socially restricted, where status belonged to warriors, and where displaying success could be more dangerous than hiding it. For more than 2 centuries, Japan's Edo period produced expanding cities, busy markets, trade networks, lending houses, warehouses, and powerful merchant families. Officially, merchants occupied a low position in the social order. Samurai stood above them. Farmers and artisans were considered more useful to society because they produced food or physical goods. Merchants, by contrast, earned money through exchange. But beneath this official hierarchy, a different reality was forming. Many samurai received fixed stipends. Merchants controlled cash flow. Samurai possessed status. Merchants developed accounting systems. Warriors were trained to defend a household with swords. Merchant families learned to defend a household with ledgers, reserves, reputation, and patience. The strongest merchant houses understood a principle that modern families often forget. Wealth does not survive because one person is intelligent. It survives because a system remains intelligent after that person is gone. In many merchant families, the household was treated as something larger than any individual member. The Japanese household structure, often described through the idea of the IE, was not simply a collection of relatives living together. It was a continuing family institution. Its name, reputation, responsibilities, property, and business interests were expected to pass from one generation to the next. This changed the meaning of money. Profit was not merely personal income, it was fuel for the household's future. A successful merchant could enjoy comfort, but he was not supposed to confuse his temporary position with permanent ownership. He was a steward. The business had existed before his leadership, and if he acted wisely, it would continue after his death. That single psychological shift created a powerful form of financial discipline. Modern consumer culture encourages us to ask, "What can I afford today?" The Edo merchant asked a more demanding question. What must remain after I am gone? That question affected everything. How much the family spent, how much it saved, how carefully it chose business partners, how it trained its children, and how quickly it expanded. Consider the great merchant houses that emerged during this period. Families such as Mitsui built commercial institutions that lasted beyond their founders because they did more than sell goods. They developed repeatable methods, clear pricing, careful record-keeping, customer trust, operational rules, leadership succession. Capital was not left entirely to memory or personality. Knowledge was written down, taught, monitored, and protected. This is one of the deepest truths of generational wealth. Money without knowledge is temporary. Property without discipline is vulnerable. A business without systems is merely a job performed by one unusually capable person. When that person disappears, the wealth often disappears with him. Edo merchant families tried to prevent this by turning wisdom into routine. Accounts were recorded, debts were watched, inventories were counted, expenses were questioned. Young successors were trained before they were trusted. Some were sent to work in the business from modest positions so they could understand customers, employees, suppliers, and the consequences of waste. Inheritance was not always treated as proof of competence. A family name could open the door, but discipline was still required to remain inside. This protected the household from one of wealth's greatest enemies: entitlement. The first generation usually remembers scarcity. It remembers uncertainty, long hours, and difficult choices. The second generation grows up around stability. The third may grow up believing stability is natural. This is where wealth begins to weaken. The danger is not always dramatic. It often begins with small changes in behavior, A larger residence, more servants, expensive ceremonies, careless lending, prestige purchases, a business expansion driven by pride instead of demand. Each decision may appear affordable by itself. Together, they transform productive capital into permanent consumption. Behavioral economics explains why this happens. Human beings quickly adapt to comfort. What once felt luxurious soon feels normal. As income rises, expectations rise with it. The pleasure of the upgrade fades, but the cost remains. This is lifestyle inflation, though Edo merchants did not use that phrase. They understood the pattern through experience. A household that constantly increased its visible standard of living became fragile. Its expenses became difficult to reduce. Its members became psychologically dependent on status. And during a bad harvest, a fire, a market disruption, or a failed loan, the family discovered that appearance could not pay its obligations. For this reason, many merchant traditions praised frugality. But their frugality was not simply about spending as little as possible. It was about preserving freedom. Low, unnecessary expenses gave the household room to survive. Cash reserves created patience. Patience prevented desperate decisions, and avoiding desperate decisions allowed capital to compound. This is where minimalism becomes an economic strategy. Every possession carries more than a purchase price. It may require storage, maintenance, protection, replacement, and attention. Every recurring expense reduces future flexibility. Every status purchase creates pressure to maintain an image. The merchant who controlled his needs was harder to frighten. He did not have to accept every opportunity. He did not have to borrow under humiliating terms. He could wait. And in finance, the ability to wait is often more valuable than the ability to act. Merchant families also understood opportunity cost. A coin spent on display could not be used to purchase inventory. Money locked inside an oversized home could not support the business during a crisis. Capital lent carelessly to impress an influential person could not protect employees or suppliers. Every use of money silently eliminated another use. Wealthy households became durable when they learned to see the invisible choice behind every visible purchase. This principle remains unchanged today. A modern salary may be larger than the income of an Edo shopkeeper, but the psychological battle is similar. A promotion arrives. The car is upgraded. The home expands. Subscriptions multiply. Children inherit a higher standard of living, but not necessarily the habits that created it. The family appears prosperous, yet very little productive capital is being preserved. Income is flowing through the household, but wealth is not staying inside it. This is the modern mistake of confusing cash flow with financial strength. High income can support high consumption. It does not automatically create resilience. True resilience is measured by what remains when income is interrupted. Savings, investments, useful skills, low debt, strong relationships, a trustworthy reputation, and family members who understand how money was built. The Edo merchant did not separate character from finance. Reliability had economic value. A family known for fair weights, honest records, and dependable repayment could survive difficulties that destroyed a less trusted competitor. Reputation functioned like invisible capital. It reduced suspicion. It attracted partners. It created repeat customers. It allowed business relationships to continue across generations. Modern people often calculate net worth using only what can be counted. But long-lasting wealth also depends on assets that do not appear clearly on a balance sheet. Judgment, patience, credibility, competence, self-control, the ability to cooperate during hardship. These assets determine whether financial wealth will be protected or destroyed. There was also another important feature of strong merchant families. They did not rely entirely on blood. When a biological heir was incapable, some households adopted a competent successor or brought a talented son-in-law into the family line. The preservation of the house could be considered more important than the pride of an individual parent. This was a severe but rational form of long-term thinking. The purpose was not to reward whoever happened to be born first. The purpose was to place responsibility in capable hands. Modern families may not follow the same customs, but the principle remains useful. Leadership should be prepared, not assumed. Children should not merely receive assets. They should learn how those assets work. They should understand taxes, debt, investing, maintenance, risk, and the emotional pressure created by money. Without this preparation, inheritance can become a burden disguised as a gift. So how can these ancient principles be applied today? Begin by separating the household from the individual ego. Do not treat every increase in income as permission to increase consumption. Decide what portion of your resources belongs to the future before deciding what can be spent in the present. Build systems that do not depend on motivation. Automate saving and long-term investing. Keep clear records. Maintain an emergency reserve. Avoid debts that require perfect conditions to remain affordable. Teach financial reasoning through real decisions, not vague advice. Explain why the family saves. Explain what risk means. Explain how compound growth requires time and why time is lost when capital is repeatedly withdrawn. Protect reputation as carefully as property, and most importantly, define what wealth is supposed to accomplish. Without a purpose, money is easily converted into display. With a purpose, it becomes a tool for stability, independence, education, opportunity, and service to future generations. The Edo merchant families who endured were not perfect. Some failed. Some made poor decisions. Some were destroyed by forces they could not control. History does not offer guarantees, but it does reveal patterns. The families most likely to survive were rarely those that consumed the most visibly. They were the families that preserved knowledge, controlled desire, prepared successors, maintained trust, and thought beyond one lifetime. Their wealth lasted because their discipline lasted. Their businesses survived because responsibility was transferred with the assets. Their capital compounded because each generation understood that it had received both a privilege and an obligation. This may be the most important lesson they left behind. Generational wealth is not created when a family simply possesses money. It is created when a family develops the character required to keep making wise decisions after the original builder is gone. Money can cross generations through inheritance. But wisdom must be taught. Discipline must be practiced. And restraint must be chosen again and again. The true achievement of the Edo merchant was not that he became wealthy. It was that he learned to build something his absence could not destroy.